I now recognize from Georgia, Mr. Hice for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ranking Member and Chairman Newhouse. Appreciate y'all holding this forum. And all the panelists, thank you for being here. This issue is really dear to my heart personally with the 10th District of Georgia. Without question, timber is the largest industry in the 10th District and is enormous in Georgia as a whole. Just to paint a little bit of a picture, Georgia leads the nation with over 22 million acres of privately owned timberland. That covers about 1/3 of the entire state. And of course, from that, we're the number one exporter of forest products in the nation, and certainly in the South for solid pine products. The timber industry in Georgia reaches some $36 billion in annual economic impact to the state. So this is a huge issue for us. I was talking to a large builder, I think it was last month, and one of you mentioned OSB board. He said this time last year he's paying about $7 a board for OSB. And when I was talking to him, he had just paid $42 a sheet for it. I mean, it's just astronomical what we're seeing, the skyrocketing lumber prices. But you know, with all that is happening, the building and all this sort of thing, you would think the timber growers are happy. I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago now. It was called "Lumber Prices Are Soaring and Why Are Tree Growers Miserable?" Something to that effect. But it laid out what is taking place right now. The bottom line is, as some of you have mentioned, the tree growers are selling at the lowest prices in 50, 60, 70 years. And, you know, but at the same time, somebody's profiting from all of this. But it's not the grower, it's not the consumer. Somehow the free market seems to be kicked off its kilter a little bit. In 2000, there was an estimated 400 sawmills in the South. Today, there are only about 250. And as Caroline mentioned a few moments ago, the Canadian firms are, I think they've got about 1/3 or somewhere in that general ballpark of the South's lumber making capacity. They've been buying up facilities right and left. And so all of this is just concerning. And somehow we've got to get to the bottom of it. So, Mr. Thomas, let me just go to you real quickly. And thank you for your testimony. I found it to be very interesting and informative. But short term and midterm, let's just look at it from that perspective. What's the solution for our timber growers?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, as I showed on my chart of lumber prices, we've only had high prices based on historical stuff, two historical data, 2 out of the last 3 years. And in fact, 2 out of the last 3 quarters. In fact, one of those quarters was in 2020. And if you look at that as an average for the whole year, prices in 2020 were $530, which was well within range of historical prices back to 1995. So the first thing I would caution everybody is we've had 2 quarters out of the last 3 where prices on average were pretty high. That doesn't a long-term trend make. So I would caution everybody, don't start panicking until this trend stays in place for a while. Long-term, I think the clear answer is that the lumber production needs to move to where supply is. And that's what's been happening. That's why the Canadians have been moving south. They moved out of Canada because their inventory in Canada is going down, as I said, because of the mountain pine beetle, and they're coming down here. We can sustain a lot more lumber production in the South. In fact, I think we're still growing about 50% more than we cut every year Southwide. There's a lot of room for more manufacturing in the South. Of course, if you loosen up the national forest out west, that'll take care of those mills. And I think some of that has to happen. You've had a horrible decrease in supply out there due to government regulations and lawsuits, but also we always talk about the mountain pine beetle in Canada, but it also killed a lot of trees on the eastern slope of the Rockies in the United States. So we've had a reduced supply out there due to not only government regulations, but natural disasters, including the fires that are even going on now. So, I think loosening up some supply out west to keep those mills going, because they produce spruce pine fir, which we have to have for construction. Southern pine and spruce pine fir are kind of complementary in the way they go into houses. Moving more production to the south, and then I think we have to balance that, what we get from Canada against what we can do here. And then trade cuts both ways. For the U.S. South, a little more trade with China would be real good for our supply issues here, in terms of making it so southern pine tree growers can afford to stay in business.
Is there any specific policies that we need to be focusing on or considering in Congress that would help the situation?
Yes. Your harvest policies in terms of West Coast lumber, trade policies with China in terms of exporting, particularly getting it out of the South. And at least for private landowners in the South, having a carbon policy that would pull some of the wood off the market and recognize that we're sequestering carbon. Remember, we're growing 50% more than we cut every year, or some extreme number like that. But that's sequestered carbon that we don't get any credit for. So it'd be nice if we could get some credit for that and pull a little bit of that wood off the market. But in terms of lumber prices, I think it's more harvest off the West Coast and give the sawmills a green light on increasing production in the South.
Okay, Ms. Dozat, let me just ask you, is my time up?
It's expired.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ranking Member. Appreciate it.